Welcome back to Business Ready for Sale, the podcast where we help you build a business that's not only profitable, but also is saleable. Whether that sale happens once or, as we're about to explore today, many times over. My guest today, Clayton Treloar, is someone who knows a thing or two about doing just that. Clayton's been involved in the franchising world for over 25 years, helping everyday business owners turn their operations into repeatable, scalable franchise models. And not only has he advised countless entrepreneurs through the franchising process, he's walked the talk himself, building and running the country franchise, MBE, mailboxes, etc. So if you've ever thought about franchising your business, or if you want to understand how franchising could actually be the ultimate exit strategy, then this episode is for you. We'll cover the real-world pros and cons, how to know if your business is franchise ready, and how to sell your business many times over while keeping ownership and options on your side. So grab a notepad, because this conversation is going to be packed with practical advice and long-term thinking. So let's get started. G'day, Clayton. Welcome to the podcast.
G'day, John. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Franchising is a great topic and one that comes up often in my world. And so it was great to meet up with you and hear your story and all your experience with franchising. So for the listeners, tell us a bit about your background and why franchising.
Well, I want to preface it with the fact that I've actually been a franchisee and also a franchisor. So there's a bit of a difference. The franchisee runs their own business and works under the banner of the franchisor, and then the franchisor runs the network of franchises. So I did start off as a franchisee, even within the MBE network, like you introduced that I run MBE Australia, but I actually started my journey as MBE franchisee in the Perth CBD branch. I also want to let you know that I'm a certified franchise executive, so it's actually a certification. So it's called a CFE. I'm a board member of the Franchise Council of Australia and hold the president's seat for the Franchise Council for the WA committee. And just one little accolade there I want to add is this year I was actually nominated and voted into the top 30 franchise executives in Australia. So I'm pretty proud about that. So I've got a lot to chat about today, and thank you. Yeah, so I'm really passionate about franchising, and it's something that I very much love and feel it's a great way of getting into business for people that are unsure about how to run a business or scale a business or even sell their business. So it's a great sort of platform for that.
Yes, I went through the process of leaving the corporate world, then getting into what became a franchise for nearly 10 years before then going out on my own. And in fact, I was telling someone this week, it's a good stepping stone from going from the employee world into the business owner world. A lot of franchisees stay in the franchising world because it can be such a great environment. And I think a lot of people don't realize just how many franchises there are out there. I mean, if you go into a shopping center, there's not many of the businesses in there that aren't franchises, are there?
Look, there are a lot of sort of standalone businesses, and some of them do extremely well, and they've been there for a very long time. But I suppose the main reason people like to get into franchising is because of that comfort zone of a proven concept. And there's a lot of proven concepts out there that have been around for a very, very long time. Everything from KFC, McDonald's, right up to smaller businesses like Paulworks and Pack and Send and the likes. So there's so many different varieties of franchises. There's literally thousands of types of models within Australia. And to get into franchising is a really, I suppose, more of a comfort zone for people that want to run a business that is a proven business.
Right. So a lot of the work's already done for you when you get into it as a franchisee.
Yes, you're sort of buying a business in a box, so to speak. You're not starting from scratch. Getting out into your own business world, and there's some very successful individual business owners out there, and they do extremely well. But it's a lot of hard work, and you're running your business on your own, and it can sometimes be a little bit lonely. Whereas when you're a franchise, you're part of a network. So if you're in a franchise of 50 or 100 locations around Australia, you communicate a lot with those other franchisees because they're willing to help you because you're not their competition. You're there to help each other and help each other grow the brand and the network. They have annual conferences and awards and all that kind of thing. So a lot of people that get a little bit lonely in business, they tend to sort of morph towards the franchise world because then they can be part of a bigger network.
Right. So you're part of a community.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're in Brisbane or Perth or Sydney or Melbourne or wherever. A lot of them have a lot of online meetings, or they have a shared portal, like they have tips and tricks, or what to look out for, or maybe customer referrals from coast to coast. You don't get that if you're sort of a standalone business and you get your own referrals within your own referral network, but getting a referral from, say, Sydney to do business with somebody in Perth is sort of relatively uncommon unless you're part of a bigger network of people that are wanting to share resources and ideas and customers and that kind of thing. So it's just being part of a bigger family, which is actually why I got into this business in the first place, into the MBE brand. I went to a conference back in 2012 and I was made to feel so welcome. I hadn't even signed on the dotted line yet. I was made to feel so welcome by all the franchisees in the network. It was like one big family. That's sort of what sealed the deal for me. I wasn't just signing a piece of paper and buying a bricks and mortar style business where I was going to be just left to my own device. Everybody was so accommodating and said, oh, look, if you get into the business, call me anytime. We've been here for 20 years. We've been here for 10 years, whatever. And they know best because they know how to run their business. Plus, you've got the support from head office. You've got your head office team in a lot of these franchise organisations, and that's what they're there for. That's why you buy into a franchise. You pay a royalty fee. You pay a percentage of your sales or a flat royalty fee, but that's what you're buying into. You're buying into the business for the brand, for the recognition, for the network, for the support, operational, finance, marketing, IT, whatever it might be. And you don't sort of have that when you're on your own. I mean, you've got your external contractors, your accountant and lawyer and marketing people and all that, but they don't sort of work in your brand. They work for many different brands.
It's interesting because I was in a franchise for nearly 10 years, and it was a similar sort of thing. It went through a similar introductory process, and you do feel like part of the family, and you've got that support around you. So that's great for if you want to buy into a franchise or get into a franchise. But what if you've got a good business, you've got it running really, really well, why would you turn it into a franchise?
Look, it's all about if you want to scale the business. So you might have a great business that's running well, it's making good money, and the only way to scale is by adding employees. And you've got a team of people. Obviously, this day and age, it's hard to find good people, as we all know. Then the only way to scale it any further is by actually going out and franchising it, because then other entrepreneurs or like-minded business owners will come in, buy the business off you, or like a franchise or a license off you, and then go and run it for themselves. So they're business owners themselves, so you don't need to babysit them. And then as a franchisor, that's when you receiving a royalty payment or some percentage of the income that's coming through that network from all your different franchisees. So if you want to grow your model or scale your business and you just physically don't have the manpower to do it, then that's when franchising really comes in.
Right. So it's a bit like having branch offices around the country, but you're putting a business owner into the branch, so to speak. So you're not running it yourself.
Yeah. Finding like-minded business owners that want to run a business like you and follow your dream and respect the brand and respect the product or the service or whatever you're offering is a lot easier to find a business owner because they've got skin in the game, so to speak. They've got money in the business. That's their business, so it's their baby too. Whereas most employees, it's a job for them. And I'm not saying everyone. There's some fantastic employees out there that treat their business like their own, but it's very few and far between. And employee can be there one day and gone the next. They might get headhunted from another company. They might, move interstate or move overseas or have a family issue and then they leave, they resign, they give 2 weeks notice, and then they move on. Business owners can't do that. They're in the business, they sign a franchise agreement for 5 or 10 years or whatever it might be, and then they're embedded in the business. So it's up to them that if they want to take holidays or have any time off in their business, then they need to make sure they've got employees that are reporting to them. They're not reporting to you. So
we'll be back after a quick break.
I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I thought I would jump in quickly at this point just to say that if you're interested in finding out how saleable your business is and getting some tips on how to make it more saleable, then you can do that through a quick online assessment via my website, and it's free and will take you about 3 or 4 minutes. You'll get a personalized score for your business in 7 different areas, and you'll get tips, again, personalized tips on how to make your business more saleable and more attractive to buyers. So just go to johndenton.com.au. That's JOHNDENTON.com.au. Find the big yellow button on the home page and complete the assessment. It's completely free and will give you a great idea of where your business stands right now. You can also find a link in the show notes to this episode. So sorry for the interruption, but let's get back to the episode. Okay, and in your intro you said there are thousands of models out there. So is any business franchisable? Are there some that are more franchisable than others?
Yeah, look, I find in my experience, even being within the MBE network and being on the Franchise Council, most businesses that do well are more product-related businesses. There's obviously a product business or a service business. There are service businesses in there that do well, but I find the majority of the business that are successful as a franchise, do have a bricks and mortar location, and they generally try and sell a product. I'd say that, and again, sort of don't quote me on the stats, but I'd say a good 80% of franchises out there, possibly even close to 90% of franchises out there, are actually bricks and mortar locations with a product to sell, whether it be chicken from Chicken Treat, or whether it be packing and selling shipment products with, say, a pack and send, or you look at something like Pool Works, that's like a service and a product industry. So they service, they repair, they fix your pool and they clean your pool and all the rest of it, but they also sell a lot of products. So they've all got a fixed address with a bricks and mortar business, and they sell chlorine and whatever. So I find any business can be franchisable, absolutely, to answer your question. However, the ones that tend to do well are those that have a physical location, that have a proven track record. So if you're a business owner and you've just got the one location, and it's a great business and you're making loads of money, my suggestion is to open up a second location as a corporate location that you own. If you're doing so well, you can probably afford to open up a second or even a third location. I'll currently take on a new client at the moment who has 6 locations, and her exact reason for coming to me is she said, "Look, Clayton, I'm at my peak. I want to scale. I want to grow, but I can't do this anymore on my own with staff. I need to look at the franchise model," which is what we're doing. We're going through a whole feasibility study, which we'll talk about later in the podcast. But to actually think about franchising, it's best that you have a proven model, and it's best that you have more than one location. That's ideal.
I guess that way you can have territories as well, whereas with the service business, if you, like with my business, I'm dealing with the whole of WA, if you like, then If you bring other people on, then you can't really have a territory. So it's a bit trickier with service.
It's trickier, well. Yeah, you can have territories, but it is a lot trickier because you want to be able to deal with clients wherever they are. You might live in Rockingham, but you've got a client in Perth, and if it's out of your territory, then there could be sort of some consequences based around that if you're in a franchise. So yeah, it is a lot more difficult. Whereas if you own a chicken treat in Rockingham, then people that live in the area are going to go to that chicken treat. People that live in Perth are only going to go there if they're visiting, but generally they'll go to a local chicken treat that's close to them. So people tend to stay close to home.
Yeah, the other thing I think with service businesses as well is in my business ready for sale workshops and things, I talk about getting people to understand whether they're actually in a business or in a practice, or whether they've got a practice. Because a practice is built around an expert, a business is built around systems. And if you're trying to franchise a practice, it's a lot more difficult, because the only franchisees you can get have to be experts as well.
Exactly.
And
not
if
only
they're
that,
the expert, why wouldn't they just start their own business?
Exactly.
Practice?
And not only that, you are your goodwill, right? So you are let's say a mortgage broker, and there is a mortgage broking franchise. It's ANZ, have ANZ Lending. They're a franchise and they're very successful. But the thing is, when you leave, all your clients are your clients. If I'm selling an MBE store where we primarily do printing, if I sell it and move on, most customers are not really going to care about that, because they just want the product. They want their business cards. They want their banners, their brochures, and all the rest of it. And the fact whether I'm there or not, they don't really care, because they want that product. Whereas in a service-based industry, they've got that relationship with me, whether I'm a finance advisor or a mortgage broker or a business sale expert, or a banking person or an accountant or whatever. All those kinds of businesses are relied on relationship as a big part of their business, probably like 90% of their business. Yeah. Whereas in a product-based business, relationship comes into play, because good customer service and good networking and all the rest of it, and that helps you grow your business. But at the end of the day, if you sell it, and I've sold many resale businesses in the MBE network, most people buy the business for the goodwill and the assets and all the rest of it, and that's exactly what comes with it. The customers are going to keep coming back whether you're there or not.
Yeah, the biggest obstacle to a good small business sale is the business owner themselves, usually.
Yes,
because they've got all the relationships with the suppliers and clients and everything else. So, so with the franchise, it's about the product or service, and as you say, people keep coming back because they want the product or service. They don't care who's behind it. When you're working with a business owner, if I came to you, or if I had a product-based business, I came to you, what's the starting point? How do you get started with a business? What's the process?
Look, it is a lengthy process, because it's got to be done right. First of all, there's a franchise code of conduct. That's a very strict code of conduct within Australia that's mandated by ASIC, and it's a federal code. So we stick by that, and the incoming potential franchisor must need to read that code and understand their obligations as a franchisor to protect the franchisee. But the process itself, I would say, on average, takes sort of a good 8 to 12 weeks. So it takes a good 2, 3, 4 months to get from start to finish. And there's many steps along the way. The very, very first step is this a proven model and is it profitable? So if that's the case and they say that, then great. Then we do what's called a feasibility study. So it's a whole family of spreadsheets that all join together. We punch in a heap of numbers. If you've got 2 or 3 locations, that's even better, because then we can take an average. It's fine. Some people are franchised from one location, and that can be done, especially if it's been there for more than sort of 2 or 3 or 4 years. But obviously, we go through a whole feasibility study. We go through a business expansion plan, and we look at sort of demographic studies and territory planning to see how big the business really could be. Because if it's a business that services, 1 million people, then you can really only have 2 in Perth, for instance, and maybe 3 in Sydney. And, if that's sort of which is very rare, but in terms of demographic studies and territory planning is really important, because we want to make sure it's worthwhile franchising. There's no point in franchising if you can't have multiple locations and scalability. So if we can have 30, 40, 50, 100 locations across Australia, I've got a client that wants to only stay in Western Australia, and that's fine. And we've figured out that they can put about 25 locations in Western Australia, and they're very, very happy with that because that's a good scalability. And then we just go through the process. If a business is not quite ready, as part of that feasibility study, so there's a cost involved to franchise your business, including legals and all the rest of it. But after phase 1 of this feasibility study, if that person's business is not really ready to be franchised, we're very honest with them, and we say to them, look, your business is not quite ready. Go away, make all these changes. It's for the best. A lot of people that even don't franchise get a whole lot out of this feasibility study, and they end up making a better business for themselves in the long run, and making more money or more profit or whatever it might be. And then if they've done those changes and then they're ready to go a year later or 6 months later or whatever it might take to make those changes, they come back, and then we move to step 2 or phase 2, and then phase 3. There's about five phases to the business. So to actually franchise itself, you've got to really be ready to go. You can't be sort of a very small business that might only just be breaking even, because then why would anyone else externally want to buy that business? As a new greenfields, we call them greenfields locations, where we go out and start a whole new business. If you've got a proven track record of success opening your own business, then that will flow over to this new potential franchisee opening a business as well.
It's interesting because there's a lot of synergy between what you do and what I do, in the respect that getting a business ready for sale. I mean, I use the franchise analogy, if you like, get your business running like you could franchise it, because then it's saleable. People are going to buy your business.
Absolutely.
And obviously what we're talking about is selling it many times rather than just selling it the once. So the principles are the same, which is fantastic. So what are the biggest fears, worries that business owners have about franchising? I mean, do they ever change their mind when you're going through the process, for example?
Look, they do. Oh, you mean about actually franchising their business, or buying into a franchise?
Franchising their business.
Business. Okay, yeah. So, good question. I would say the biggest fears are, this person's been running their business for so long. They're so passionate. They've got their brand name. They've got their good client relationship down pat. They've got their customers all taken care of. But they don't want someone else to come in and run that business in a bad way and get bad reviews and bad customers and give them a bad name. So the best way to do that is to ensure that you've got a good company culture and
they don't want somebody coming in and messing up the brand.
Yes, that's probably the biggest fear, is someone else coming in to their business and then messing it up and giving the brand a bad name, right? And whereas this person's run this business for 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 years, even in some cases, and they're ready to expand, but they're really, they feel like they're going to lose control over their brand. So that's probably the biggest fear that I've seen and heard along the way. However, franchising, you can put a lot of controls in place on what people can and can't do with your brand. And on the flip side of that, potential franchisees coming in may go, well, I don't want to be too controlled over the franchise, or I don't want to be told, it's like, well, okay, well, you're buying a franchise, you're buying someone else's business. You need to really sort of abide by the way they want to run it, because they've been successful all these years. It's like, you don't go and buy a McDonald's store and then start selling chicken rolls or whatever.
Krispy Kremes or something.
Yeah, there's a reason why that business is successful. So they have a strict set of guidelines, and their own franchise agreement abides by that. And if people want to come in and start turning the yellow M in McDonald's to pink, then they'll get kicked out as quickly as possible. So you can sort of see both sides of the story, right? So
Yeah. I did some work years ago with a business in Sydney that helped businesses franchise as well.
Yeah.
And we had the discussion. He said the secret to success of a franchise for a franchisor is getting the right franchisees. And I said, well, how do what are the right franchisees? He said, the best franchisees are retired airline pilots, because
Oh,
if they want
wow.
to know how to do anything, they just read the manual.
That's right. That's actually a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
retired airline pilots. How do I
Yeah.
do this?
Okay.
Grab the manual and read the
Yeah.
manual.
Follow the guidelines, follow the process, and land the plane successfully.
That's it. Yep. And follow the training. It was, yeah, he said, what you don't want is people that are entrepreneurial or creative as a franchisee.
Yes.
Just,
Yes.
they're going to
Because of
come
the
in
culture.
and turn the key and run the business. I mean, most franchise, well, no, I wouldn't say most, because I was in a franchise for 10 years. It's good in that as a franchisee, well, in this particular franchise, we had a lot of input into how the franchise developed going forward. So, you can be creative, but you've got to be creative through the franchisor,
Yeah.
not do it independently.
Absolutely. Yep. No, we love creative people in our franchise. We love ideas. We have what's called a franchise advisory council within the network where they give all their input and ideas, and we take them and run with them, make sure they work. We're always open. The door's always open to ideas. Absolutely. But as long as somebody doesn't just come along and make a major change themselves because they think it's that way, it's got to be sort of a unanimous type of decision, right, going forward. Because what you do in your business could potentially affect the other franchisee that's 2 kilometres away or in the next suburb along or whatever. And customers just see a franchise as one big business, right? They realise they're individually owned, but they'll just see that franchise. If they go to one location and get something specific, they want to be able to go to another location and get the same thing. So it's all about uniformity, branding. Following the process. There's a reason why the franchisor has been successful and why they franchised it in the first place. So why wouldn't you want to just grab hold of that and run with it?
Let's talk about franchisor responsibility, because again, in the business sale world, when I was with the broking firm, the first broking firm that I worked for, any franchisee business that came up for sale, they gave to me, because I'd been in a franchise for nearly 10 years, which they sold for me, for me and my business partner. So, and a lot of the brokers didn't like selling franchisees businesses because you've got all the usual hurdles of finding a buyer, getting through due diligence and doing all those sort of things. But then, of course, you've got to get the franchisor's approval to take the buyer on. There was one franchise I sold where the buyer, having gone through due diligence and getting finance and getting all that done, then at his own expense had to go to Queensland for a week, go through a week's training, be tested, and then at the end of that, the franchisor would either approve or not approve them to buy the business. So it's an extra hurdle, if you like, in selling the business. So a lot of the brokers passed them to me because I'd come out of a franchise and understood about franchising. Then they gave me those to sell. Apart from, there were a couple of franchises that the partners that owned the broking firm kept for themselves because they were such damn good franchises, and quite a few of the franchisees actually bought multiple franchises because it was such a good business. But then when they came to sell, they would, the partners would take them on because they sold so easily. And that's the other thing. I'm just rambling a little bit here, but like a franchise bakery will sell at a better price and probably quicker, certainly quicker, I would say, than an independent bakery. So again, another advantage of both for the franchisee and the franchisor is that you're probably going to be able to sell more easily than an independent business. The buyer's probably going to be more successful in getting finance, and you're probably going to get a better price for it.
Yes.
On the franchisee side, there's all those pluses as well. And for the franchisor, every time a franchisee sells their franchise at a good price, it increases the value of the brand.
Yes.
Any thoughts around all of that?
Yeah, look, just back to the fact that the franchisor does need to approve a franchisee. So it's up to the outgoing franchisee to use a business broker or sell the business themselves, or we help send leads their way, no problem at all. We can't officially sell their business for them because we don't have a business broker's license, as you understand. But when they do find somebody and they feel like they've pre-qualified them, or the business brokers pre-qualified them, then they will be interviewed by us at head office to determine. And look, we very rarely knock people back unless they've got something majorly wrong with them or their financial situation's not. But at the end of the day, the business broker generally goes through all those processes before they send them to us anyway, right? To make sure they can afford the business itself. They've got some cash flow behind them and all the rest of it. So you're not expected to know everything about the business. We're happy to teach them, but at the end of the day, franchisors do get the final say in who they want in their business, and rightly so. If it's somebody that there's a major red flag, or there's they've been bankrupt 5 times, or we've done some due diligence that someone else hasn't done, then we're just setting everyone up for failure. So again, as part of the code of conduct, it is our responsibility to ensure that somebody's buying a business under the right pretenses, and then they also have to go and get legal advice and accountant's advice. So there's a whole process. At the end of the day, we don't want to take on a franchisee if they're going to fail, because it's not fair on them or us. So we do make some tough decisions, but yeah, look, at the end of the day, if they've done their research and they've met the right people, there's no reason why anybody can buy into a franchise for the right reasons. Some people have never run a business in their life, and they wouldn't know how to run a business, and that's what we're here for, to help them. There are also external courses and help that you can get on how to run a business and how to set up a business and all the rest of it. But you're not expected to be an expert in the industry, because that's what we're here to do. You go through, most franchisors, in fact, I don't know any that don't, you go through a very, very rigorous training program, an onboarding program to make sure that you understand the business. Then you get full support along the way. So yeah, it's a good comment, but at the end of the day, it's for the right reasons why people should or should not buy a franchise.
I started off my little diatribe with talking about the franchisor's responsibility, because I have encountered franchisees whose complaints have had complaints about the franchisor sort of having all care and no responsibility, so not actually providing that support. I know you're big on this, and I know in your franchise you're big on the support for the franchisees. Sometimes you get a franchisee that thinks it's up to the franchisor to make them successful. If you come across that, I guess if you're recruiting the right people, you don't get that.
Yeah, look, it's hard because we do psychometric testing, and we do all sorts of onboarding interviews and things like that. Some people that you think are going to be fantastic turn out to be less desirable in the future, and they might turn things around, or they last in the business for a year and then they flip it and sell it, and maybe they just shouldn't be buying a business in general, whether it's a franchise or a non-franchise business. Others that you sort of on the fence about, but they really want to get into the business and prove to you, can turn out to be absolute superstars and so successful. So it's all about behind them. It's their energy and their motivation and their willingness to listen and train and follow the guidelines of the business. They'll be successful. But those people that sort of come into a business and sit down and wait for the phone to ring, it doesn't work that way. You got to get out and get involved with your marketing and your networking and your customer service, and follow the system. And and follow the process, and you'll do well. Anyone can do well at any business. You don't have to be an expert in it, because expertise can be learnt, but personality and drive and motivation and work-life balance, you can't sort of teach that. People have to follow their own dreams.
I guess that's the same with any business recruiting an employee. It's the same things apply.
Yeah.
It's not any different in that respect.
No, absolutely. It's hard to make the decision, but at the end of the day, you've got to sometimes go with your gut, and buy business for the right reason. Not everyone's suited to be a business owner, and that's fine.
Correct.
If we're all business owners, then who'd be working in the government and who'd be driving our school buses. There's people for everything. I'd be useless at corporate world personally. I love working for myself, and put me in the corporate world or in the government, and I wouldn't be any good. So it works both ways.
Okay, so for someone wanting to franchise their business and scale it up, if they want to contact you, how can they get hold of you, Clayton?
They can reach me out on LinkedIn is a big one for me. So they can reach me on LinkedIn. Just follow my, there's not too many Clayton Treloars in the world. So it's spelled Clayton and then Treloar. So they can connect with me on LinkedIn, or feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to respond via email and discuss opportunities. I love networking. I'm always willing to meet new people. My email address is ctreloar, Treloar, at integralbusinessconsultants.com.au.
Beautiful. And before we finish up, some case studies. Have you got some examples that you can tell us without breaching any confidentiality or anything?
Some examples of businesses that have sort of franchised them, so they've gone into franchising. From scratch. Oh, look, there's a lot of one of the most successful I've ever found is back in 1993, Pack and Send was invented, and a gentleman by the name of Michael Paul opened up his first store in Parramatta and expanded to over 120 across Australia and into the UK and New Zealand. And his exit strategy obviously was he wanted to retire, and which he did recently. I think it was within the last 3 or 4 years. Sold out to MBE Global, which is our global company through my MBE brand as well. And it's just a true success story. That's a fantastic business. Then you've got smaller businesses like in Western Australia. You've got the family-owned business called Pinjarra Bakery, for instance. They started off as a little family bakery down in Pinjarra many, many years ago in the family, and they've franchised, so they're growing. They're looking for like-minded people to get involved with such a fantastic product in their Pinjarra Bakery pies. There's many great stories. There's even a lot of local stories around, but look, at the end of the day, it is a tough gig, because you're dealing with people and personalities, and the people that are got to be on point with you as a franchisor, and you've got to let go a little bit, and you're not dealing with staff, you're dealing with business owners, so they shouldn't need their hand held. They should know how to run a business, or they should be happy to learn how to run a business, as long as they follow your guidelines and your dream and your brand and your product or service, then they'll do well. But at the end of the day, it's the type of people that you bring on board. Some businesses grow, exponentially. Goman and Gomez grew huge, and they went onto the stock market and went public, and they're a massive company with over 200-300 locations within the last, I think, 10 years. And others just plod along and want to grow at their own rate. So there's so many other great stories out there. There are 2 that I can think of.
No, it's great, and it's it's an alternative to just selling your business and exiting. If you're young enough and you want to scale up, then it's a great way to go. So, and yes, I mean, we look around, there are many, many successful franchises. It's a great way for people to get into business, coming out of the corporate world and or employment. Any last sort of tips or comments or things you'd like to say,
Yeah,
Clayton,
look,
before we
yeah,
wrap up?
yeah, look, if you just do your research, understand what franchising really is. There is so many tools on the even on the Franchise Council of Australia's website or under ASIC. Understand the franchise code of conduct and work hard, and it can really pay off being a franchisor. If you've got a business idea or a business model that's doing really well and you want to scale it, but you find it hard to find the right people, then following the franchise dream could be an option. But just do your research and follow the code, follow the systems, and be successful. And don't rush. If you're not quite ready, or you're told you're not quite ready by a franchise expert, then take their advice and go and make the changes and be franchise ready. So, as you say, that's probably the best advice I can give.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I have had people come to me in the past saying, I've got this great business idea and I'm going to franchise it. And it's like they want to franchise it before they've even got a working model.
Doesn't work that way. Nobody's going to buy a franchise that doesn't have history behind it and actual numbers. People, it's like buying a business without seeing the numbers. And I'm sure you see that every day, where their numbers aren't ready, or their accountant hasn't done their tax return or whatever. Well, then why would I want to buy a business if I know that it's not, if I don't know whether it's making money or not? There's no point. It just doesn't. And franchising is the same.
So get your business ready for sale and then decide if you want to sell it once or
Yes.
Go to Clayton and sell it many times over.
Yes, absolutely. It's a fun journey.
I'll put your contact details in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
So that people can contact you that way. And look, thank you very much. It's been an interesting conversation and it's a great topic. Who knows, we may come back and do a follow-up down the track.
Yes, I'd love that. Thanks for the invite, John. I appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting with anyone that needs a bit of advice around franchising.
Terrific. All righty. Well, that was a bit of a masterclass on franchising and a powerful reminder that you don't always have to sell your business once to cash out. Sometimes the smarter move is to create a model that lets you sell it again and again without giving up control. So a big thank you to my guest today for sharing such valuable insights, his depth of experience, both as a franchisor himself and as a guide to others, and somebody that helps business owners sell their businesses many times over. So if this episode has sparked something for you and you're wondering whether your business could be franchised, then don't just file it away. Reach out, get some advice, and as Clayton said, do some research and then step forward. Remember, the best time to start getting your business ready for sale is well before you plan to exit. And franchising might just be the multiplier that you've been looking for. So thanks for listening to Business Ready for Sale. If you found today's episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other business owners who need to hear it. So until the next time, keep building a business that's not just successful, but also saleable. Bye from me, John Denton. See you on the next episode. Thank you for listening, and I hope you got lots out of that episode. I want to remind you that if you go to the show notes on your podcast player, you'll see that you can text comments, feedback, suggestions directly to the show, and I will pick those up and respond to them. So just go to the show notes and say where it says send a text message, and that will go directly to the show. So comments, feedback, and suggestions for future topics would be appreciated. From John Denton, thank you, and I look forward to you being on another podcast soon.